Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really delighted to be able to spend some time with you this afternoon and share some of our insights into talent and resourcing in telco and technology. Now, I won't claim that we have all of the answers by any stretch, so I hope that you'll treat this as sharing amongst professional friends, and that what we talk about today will complement the work that you do with your own teams. I'm going to take quite a broad lens to this topic of talent in our industry. Firstly, think about the global talent context. As Jules said, there is a mounting war for talent, so we need to be very mindful as leaders about what this means. Secondly, we'll talk a little bit about candidate drivers and our thoughts and our research about what's driving candidates at the moment. And then finally, probably a little bit more editorial, but some points of view about what's important for organisations in our industry and for each of us as leaders. So if we think about the global context and in technology, and if you've had Hugh and Vish here this morning, maybe one of the themes that you talked about is automation. And in our industry, we talk about automation and how eventually we will need less human beings, in theory, to do lots of the tasks and the thinking that we do at the moment. And that will continue to be the case. But overall, as the population ages across the world, then we're going to continue to need replacement workers. And particularly in industries such as agriculture, resources, manufacturing, textiles and trades. And as you can see in that first dot point, it's estimated that the US and the EU will need 70 million extra workers in a replacement sense. Last week, China announced the relaxing of the one-child policy. Some of you will have heard that for certain segments of the organisation. So the number of workers supporting each senior citizen in China is expected to go from 10, which it is now, down to 2.5. So you can see there's just going to be continuing requirement for labour right around the world. A topic that I think is really close to our own hearts is the declining number of people who are studying technical or undertaking technical learning, particularly in the West, in the UK and Australia, New Zealand and the US. I think it's something for us to be very mindful about, and more multinational corporations are turning to both Russia and India for quality technical talent. At the moment, we're finding, and you'll each have your own experience about this, but professional job seekers are pretty bunkered down at the moment. So there's not a lot of people on the market. The market in Asia is quite hot in technology, but otherwise, particularly in the US, and I think this is an overhang from the global financial crisis still, that good quality talent are bunkered down. They're staying where they're working at the moment, and most employers are making it part of their business to ensure they retain top talent. So extracting talent is quite difficult. And that final point there, we call this a switching premium, but where you're trying to extract talent from other organisations, particularly in technology, we're seeing that talent is attracting switching premiums of up to 15%. So they're asking premiums to move to other organisations and across the world. So important that we're mindful of that. And I think the thing that's not stated but is obvious there is that if the quality talent is bunkered down, then those who are mobile and who are moving are not necessarily of the highest quality, or they might be the B and Cs rather than the As. So what's the impact of this? That's some global context, but of course, and I'm sure we have some CEOs and managing directors and business owners in this room. I'm very aware of the importance of quality talent as a differentiator in our businesses. Vacancies are being hard to fill at the moment. Many organisations are finding it hard to fill their vacancies, and also are concerned about their pipelines. I'm sharing this not to create concern, but more to encourage informed choices and investment. We must have a lot of respect for the labour market, and we also need to intervene where it's not delivering us what we need. I think the good news is that the quality tech leaders that we're seeing coming through the ranks, and particularly out of the US, but also in Asia and India and in Australia, are some of the best talent I think they really are the new breed, who have the combination of the technical and the technology capability and expertise, but as young entrepreneurs, they're being forced to understand how to lead people and get things done through others as well. So I think it's quite exciting, the new breed that are coming through. They're hard to access at the moment. There's lots of talk in in the talent industry, so to speak, about the potential for a Silicon Valley bubble burst with all of the unicorn businesses and the entrepreneurs up there. And as much as it wouldn't be good for the market, and I don't think it'd be great for Telstra either if the bubble burst, but from a talent perspective, the possibility that we could unleash some of that Silicon Valley talent, and I think they will be great leaders of the future, a lot of those young people working in that industry at the moment. So there's the good news. So importantly in all of this, I think if that's a global context, then the net of all of that is to say labour is not going to be easily available, and particularly specialist labour. And so it's worth having a quick look at what's important to candidates at the moment, what's driving them. So across the world, globally, the top two candidate drivers are work-life balance, and as a Victorian, that's probably a good thing to be saying after the long weekend for Cup Day. Work-life balance and compensation. This really varies a lot across the globe. I've put those two up, which are Australia, New Zealand and China, comparing the two of those, but we have that, you can look at that across the globe as well. In Australia, clearly, we're valuing work-life balance, and I think I could say anecdotally, that's also my experience in spending a lot of my life interviewing people. That's important in Australia. And by way of comparison, in China, it's quite different. Compensation is by far and away the biggest driver in the Chinese market at the moment. And so I think that it's important, and certainly we've been learning this in the last 2 years, that we must pay attention to what these different drivers are in each country and in the markets, so the talent pools that we're trying to extract. And it's very important, and you can go with recruitment campaigns and resourcing campaigns that miss the mark just because people are seeking work-life balance in Australia. It's certainly not the case in all the other markets. So that's important, and we really need to be, as leaders and particularly for HR teams, paying attention to that. Some thoughts about what matters and the way that we can, I guess, address this as leaders of organisations. It's all very interesting to say it's a tough labour market and candidates have a little bit more power than they used to, but what do we do about that? And again, we don't have all the answers, I don't think, but we do have some thoughts and a point of view. I think firstly, leadership commitment is the most important thing that we've learned. So we are very fortunate in our company that we have a chairman, a board, a CEO and a senior leadership team that are very focused on talent. And so as the company's Chief Talent Officer, I've been very well supported in undertaking the initiatives that we need to and creating talent pools for the organisation. But I think it's critical in the industry and across organisations that boards and senior teams understand how important this is. So that's the first thing. I think understanding the capability that you require as an organisation, and we sometimes find this difficult to pinpoint specifically in Telstra, and as leaders we always want the best of the best. I always want the best HR people to come and work in my team, there's no doubt about that. But there's something that can become overwhelming if you think about everything you do as an organisation and you want to have the best person for doing every single one of those things. So I think what I've learned particularly in the last 2 years, is to be pretty sharp about the capability in your organisation that differentiates you in the market and helps you win in the marketplace, and forming an opinion about that. So we've invested quite a lot of time in saying, so what really is the capability that we need to be the best at, and in what areas that might be declining capabilities or things that we don't need so much of in the future. What are the things that we maybe just good is good enough in some circumstances. So I think understanding your capability requirements is really, really important. The third thing, and we have it up there, is to build deep and reliable internal talent pools. And again, we've not claimed victory on this yet, but I think some of the comments that I've made earlier and the data suggests, the demographic data and the candidate data suggests that the external market's not reliable. It's not reliable. So it's appropriate to help you make appointments, niche appointments, or investment in new markets where you need a new and different type of talent to help you be successful in those markets. But as a general rule, it's not going to be very reliable to have a talent strategy that relies on the outside. And so over time, certainly we've been very focused at building our talent pools in our company. And that does require investment. And again, matching with the capabilities that are required. So building the right types of pools, thinking about the graduates that you hire, thinking about what their experience is, trying to create breadth and stickiness in the organisation so people come and stay and have their career and you can rely on them in the future. So becoming self-reliant, I think, from a talent perspective is a really important thing for organisation. It's important from a risk perspective, but it also future-proofs you and takes some anxiety out of leadership where you know where your next capability is coming from. I'm sure that I don't have to make the case for you about diversity. This is a topic that's much discussed, I think, in our industry, but it must be at the core of how you're thinking, I think, as leaders, that we look at very diverse talent pools, both from a gender perspective, from an ethnic perspective, and all of the different types of diversity that you can consider. Firstly, you get access to better talent that way. Sometimes it takes a bit more effort, but it's absolutely critical. And secondly, people are more happy. It's part of an EVP for an organisation, so a value proposition about where you want to work, and seeing an organisation that actively embraces diversity, I think, will become more and more critical going forward, and also gives you access to larger pools of talent. So they're my best advice about the key areas for companies to be focusing on. And I think emphasising the first one, because we can't make talent someone else's problem as leaders. You know, we have to own that and keep it close to ourselves, and not outsource it to HR or the recruiters to rely on them finding you the best talent. We really need to own that. At a personal level, thinking about what each of us can do as leaders and our own important role in the talent agenda. So I guess it's not to put too much sugar on it. If we are going to invest properly in talent for the future, then there's no skimming across the top on that, and there's no easy way to do it. It does take thought and effort. So taking personal accountability for building capability and definitely for your own succession. So I'd be thrilled if you are driving home or on the train home or catching the plane home, or however you're going to make it home this afternoon, if you're thinking about your own succession and thinking about who in your team is going to be the person that you're nurturing, or the people that you're nurturing to take over from you. And I think we encourage, certainly at Telstra, that that's a very important accountability for each Telstra leader, that they're thinking hard and long about who's going to succeed them into the role. And I think as leaders, we're each personally very deeply accountable for that. Secondly, to have really good conversations with your people and be transparent, invest in them and have the right conversations with them about how they're performing, about how the organisation sees them and what the future is there. Not having those conversations won't help in. Sometimes they're hard. I think that's the thing. We're not naturally programmed to do that well all the time, but it's an important part of what we do as leaders in organisations, and it ensures that we have an intimacy with our talent, which will help us future-proof for the long term. And then I've mentioned this already, but this idea of actively seeking to build diversity at all levels in the organisation, and to be, again, taking the extra effort to go and seek out diverse candidates that bring something different to your team, I think is critical in all the things that we consider about talent. So in summary, as I've outlined, the labour market continues to be tough. And there are some things for us to focus on as an industry, as a collective, I think, as we build the capability in the industry, invest more in diversity and technical education. At Telstra, we've been quite vocal about continuing investment in Australia in technical education. I think it's something that we need to continue to advocate for and be prominent in all of our organisations. And then finally, at a very personal level, the important role each leader has in creating the next generation of talent for this industry, and I think that's an accountability that we should all take very personally. So thank you. I hope that's been useful to share those insights into how we're thinking about the labour outlook and talent, and perhaps a point of view on some of the strategies that organisations can employ.